It was a warm, sunny Saturday morning, and the kind of day that made everyone feel lazy yet cheerful at the same time. Birds were singing from the trees lining the quiet street, and a soft breeze carried the smell of freshly cut grass. In the middle of all this calm, a young girl named Lila was setting up her lemonade stand at the corner of the block. The stand wasn't fancy, just a small wooden table, a few pitchers of lemonade, some colorful cups, and a simple sign she had made herself. But to Lila, it was something special. She had spent the past week carefully measuring sugar, squeezing lemons, and practicing her recipe to make the lemonade taste just right. This was more than just selling drinks. It was her little project, her pride, and a way to save a bit of money for the school supplies she wanted for the next term. Lila's parents had always told her to be polite and kind, but also careful when dealing with strangers. They reminded her to smile at customers, thank them, and never argue. Lila took their advice seriously. She had a bright smile on her face as she greeted the first neighbor who walked by. "Good morning. Would you like some lemonade?" she said cheerfully. The neighbor smiled, handed her $1, and took a cup. Lila felt a small thrill of happiness. Selling lemonade wasn't just about money. It was about the little connections she made with people. As the morning went on, more neighbors stopped by. Children from nearby houses came running with coins in their hands, and even the mail carrier paused for a quick cup. Lila's heart swelled with pride every time someone complimented her lemonade. "It's so refreshing," one neighbor said. "You've got a real talent, Lila," another added. Lila blushed and smiled. She felt like the luckiest girl in the world. For a moment, the street seemed peaceful and nothing could go wrong. But peace, as it often does, didn't last long. A low rumble of motorcycles echoed from the distance. At first, it was just a faint sound, almost like thunder rolling softly over the horizon, but the rumble grew louder, closer, until a group of bikers appeared, riding in a tight formation. They wore leather jackets, sunglasses, and heavy boots, their motorcycles shining in the sunlight. Their presence immediately changed the energy of the street. The birds seemed to quiet down, and even the neighbors looked uneasy. Lila's smile faltered as the group stopped near her stand. One of the bikers, the tallest of the bunch, jumped off his motorcycle and walked toward her. He had a scowl on his face and an air of confidence that felt threatening. Lila tried to stand her ground, clutching her lemonade pitcher a little tighter. "Hi, can I help you?" she asked, trying to sound brave. The biker laughed, a loud, rough sound that made Lila's stomach twist. "What's this? A little girl selling lemonade?" he mocked, looking down at her. "You think anyone's gonna buy from you?" His friends behind him laughed too, revving their motorcycles to show off. Lila's heart raced. She remembered her parents' words about being polite, but this wasn't a polite conversation. She felt small and scared, wishing she could disappear. "Please, it's just lemonade," Lila said quietly, hoping he would leave. But the biker didn't leave. Instead, he grabbed the edge of her table, tipping it slightly. Cups wobbled and some lemonade spilled onto the pavement. Lila gasped and tried to steady the table, but it was too late. The biker pushed harder, knocking over a pitcher. Lemonade poured onto the street, soaking the papers and coins Lila had collected. The neighbors gasped, and a few whispered to each other, unsure whether to intervene. The bikers laughed even louder this time. "What's wrong, little girl? Can't handle a little spill?" one of them sneered. Lila's face burned with embarrassment and anger. She wanted to shout at them, to tell them they were wrong, but her voice caught in her throat. She felt a mix of fear and helplessness she had never experienced before. All she wanted was for them to leave and for her day to go back to normal. Lila's hands shook as she tried to pick up the fallen cups and wipe the sticky lemonade from the table. But every movement she made seemed to amuse the bikers more. One of them kicked a paper cup across the street, and Lila's heart sank as she watched it spill. She had worked so hard to set everything up perfectly, and now it felt like her efforts were being destroyed for no reason at all. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of them. From the sidewalk, a few neighbors watched nervously. Some wanted to step in, but the bikers' presence was intimidating. Their motorcycles were huge. Their leather jackets gave them a sense of power, and their laughter echoed down the street like a warning. Lila felt utterly alone, even though people were nearby. It was as if the world had shrunk around her, leaving only her and these intimidating strangers. Then, just as one of the bikers raised his fist as if to threaten her further, two figures appeared at the end of the street. They were impossible to miss. One was tall, broad, and exuded confidence with every step he took. The other moved with a quiet strength, his presence commanding attention without a word. Lila didn't recognize them at first, but the neighbors gasped, whispering excitedly. These weren't just any strangers, they were Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena, in town for a local charity event. They had been walking nearby and noticed the commotion. Without hesitation, The Rock and John Cena approached the scene. Their calm but commanding presence immediately drew the attention of the bikers. Lila felt a strange mix of awe and hope. She didn't know these men personally, but somehow she knew everything was about to change. The bikers paused, unsure how to react to the sudden appearance of two well-known figures who looked capable of handling almost anything. The Rock stepped forward first, his voice deep but controlled. "Leave her alone now." It wasn't a shout, but the tone carried authority. John Cena stood beside him, his arms crossed, his expression serious. Lila watched, heart pounding, as the bikers hesitated. The bravado that had seemed so natural moments ago now faltered in the face of the two men's presence. The tall biker, who had been the first to mock her, looked at his friends, then back at The Rock and John Cena. For a brief moment, Lila thought he might argue or act out, but something in their demeanor made him pause. Slowly, muttering under his breath, the bikers turned toward their motorcycles. Engines roared, and with a final glance at Lila, they rode away, leaving the street quiet once again. Lila's knees felt weak, and she leaned against her lemonade stand for support. Relief washed over her in waves mixed with lingering fear. She had never imagined that selling lemonade could turn into such a terrifying experience. But as she watched the bikers disappear down the street, she realized something important. Even in moments of fear, help could appear in unexpected ways. The kindness and bravery of others could turn a scary situation around. The Rock and John Cena walked over to her, kneeling so they could be at her level. "Are you okay?" The Rock asked, his voice gentle now, full of genuine concern. Lila nodded, tears threatening to spill. But she felt a warmth in her chest, knowing she wasn't alone anymore. John Cena smiled, giving her a reassuring nod. "You were very brave," he said. "Standing here and trying to keep your lemonade stand going, that's real courage." Neighbors slowly came out of their houses, offering assistance. Some helped clean up the spilled lemonade, while others gave Lila coins and notes to replace what she had lost. There was a sense of community forming in that quiet street, a reminder that even in the face of bullies, kindness and support could make a big difference. As the day went on, Lila's lemonade stand slowly recovered. She cleaned the table, poured new lemonade, and set out fresh cups. Her hands were still shaking a little, but her determination had returned. She realized that this wasn't just a lemonade stand anymore. It was a symbol of her resilience. And though the morning had started with fear and uncertainty, it ended with hope, courage, and the reminder that heroes could appear when you least expect them. That Saturday would stay in Lila's memory forever. It wasn't just the bikers or the spilled lemonade that made it memorable. It was the way strangers could show up to protect her, the way neighbors could support each other, and the way she herself found strength in a moment she thought she had none. Even as the sun began to set and the street returned to its peaceful rhythm, Lila felt a quiet pride. She had faced fear, experienced kindness, and learned that bravery wasn't always about fighting. It was also about standing firm, trusting others, and believing in herself. And so, as the day ended and the last few customers waved goodbye, Lila packed up her stand with a smile. The memory of The Rock and John Cena standing by her side would stay with her forever. A reminder that courage and kindness could appear in the most unexpected ways, turning an ordinary lemonade stand into the site of an unforgettable story. After the bikers rode away, leaving only the soft hum of engines fading in the distance, Lila felt a strange mix of relief and lingering fear. Her hands were sticky from spilled lemonade, and the table was still slightly wobbly from the chaos. For a moment she just stood there, breathing in the warm air, listening to the quiet that had returned to the street. It felt almost unreal. The loud laughter and threats from earlier seemed like a bad dream. But the spilled lemonade, the scattered coins, and the few dents on the table reminded her that it had all been real. Neighbors began to emerge from their homes, carefully approaching Lila. Some were holding paper towels and rags to help clean the mess, while others carried fresh pitchers and cups. "Are you okay, Lila?" one neighbor asked, a concerned look on her face. Lila nodded, though she wasn't entirely sure. She had never been confronted like this before. The sudden fear, The feeling of helplessness and the shocking appearance of the Rock and John Cena. It was all too much to process at once. Yet, underneath the fear, there was a budding sense of courage. Somehow, surviving that moment felt empowering. The Rock crouched beside her, his broad frame making him appear gentle despite his size. "You did the right thing by standing your ground," he said softly. "It's not easy to face people who try to intimidate you, especially when you're alone. But you stayed calm and brave, and that's what matters." Lila looked up at him wide-eyed. His calm voice made her chest feel lighter, like a heavy weight had been lifted. She realized that bravery wasn't always about fighting back or yelling. It could be about staying steady and not letting fear take control. John Cena stood nearby, crossing his arms and smiling kindly. "You handled that situation better than most adults would," he added. "It's okay to feel scared. Feeling scared doesn't make you weak. It means you're human. The important thing is that you didn't give up, and you didn't let them ruin your day completely." Lila felt a small spark of pride. She had wanted to cry earlier, to scream, or to run away, but instead she had stayed. And even though she had needed help, she had also kept going. The neighbors worked together to clean up the spilled lemonade and scattered coins. One man carried a bucket of water, while another used a rag to wipe the sticky street. Lila helped too, though carefully this time. Each time she picked up a fallen cup, she felt a little stronger. The incident had shaken her, but it had also shown her the power of community. People came together, not because they had to, but because they genuinely wanted to help. It was a lesson that stayed with her, a lesson about kindness and support that went beyond the fear she had felt moments ago. As the cleanup continued, the Rock and John Cena stayed nearby, watching and occasionally offering advice. "Sometimes bullies pick targets who seem small or weak, but that doesn't make you small or weak at all," the Rock said. "It just means they don't understand courage when they see it. And courage isn't about size or strength, it's about what's inside your heart." Lila listened carefully, soaking in every word. His voice was steady, almost like a warm blanket on a cold day. For the first time since the bikers appeared, she felt truly safe. John Cena added, "And never forget, it's okay to ask for help. There's no shame in that. Courage and help often go together. You can be brave on your own, but it's even braver to let others support you when you need it." Lila nodded. She thought about how alone she had felt at the start, and how just seeing them appear had changed everything. It wasn't just about fighting or confronting the bikers. It was about believing that someone could help you, that you weren't truly alone. The morning moved on, and the street slowly returned to normal. Children who had been playing nearby came back, curious about the commotion. They asked Lila if she was okay and helped her straighten the lemonade stand. Their small hands picked up spilled cups and wiped up drips, and their chatter slowly brought a sense of normalcy back to the corner. Lila laughed quietly as one of the younger kids accidentally spilled a little lemonade on their own shoes. It was a small, simple moment, but it reminded her that life goes on, even after scary moments. News of the incident started spreading through the neighborhood. People whispered to each other about the bikers, about the bravery of Lila, and about the surprising appearance of the Rock and John Cena. Some neighbors who had stayed indoors peeked out their windows to see if everything was okay. Lila's parents had been called, and they arrived soon after, running toward her with worry written all over their faces. They hugged her tightly, relieved that she was safe. They listened as she recounted the events, from the bikers' threats to the sudden intervention of the two famous men. Her parents were amazed, of course, but they also wanted Lila to understand the bigger lesson. "We're proud of you, Lila," her mother said. "You showed courage, but more importantly, you stayed calm and didn't let fear control you. That's something you'll carry with you for the rest of your life." Her father nodded, adding, "And remember, sometimes help comes from unexpected places. People who care about others can make a huge difference, even if they don't know you personally. Never forget that kindness exists in the world." Lila listened carefully, feeling a mixture of pride, relief, and hope. Even the Rock and John Cena stayed for a while, talking to the neighbors and taking a moment to make sure everything was back to normal. They joked lightly with the children, shared smiles with Lila, and reassured everyone that the bikers were gone for good. Their presence was calming, almost like a protective shield over the street. Lila realized something important. Heroes don't always need capes or superpowers. Sometimes they appear as ordinary people who step in when they see someone in need, using their presence, courage, and words to protect others. As the day continued, more customers came to Lila's stand. Word had spread, and people from nearby streets stopped by offering money for lemonade and praise for her bravery. Lila poured cup after cup, her hands steady now, and smiled as she served each customer. She realized that her small lemonade stand had turned into something bigger than just a place to sell drinks. It had become a place where courage and kindness intersected, where people learned that standing up for yourself and others could change everything. By afternoon, the street was lively again. Children played nearby, neighbors chatted, and the sun cast long, golden shadows across the pavement. Lila felt exhausted, but she also felt stronger than she had ever felt before. She had faced fear, experienced kindness, and seen courage in action. The bikers' arrival had been terrifying, but it had also taught her lessons that she would never forget. Bravery isn't about fighting alone. Help can come when you least expect it. And standing up for yourself matters, no matter your size or age. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the lemonade stand, Lila reflected on the events of the morning. She thought about the bikers, the spilled lemonade, and the fear she had felt, but also about the strength she had found within herself, the kindness of neighbors, and the unexpected arrival of the Rock and John Cena. For Lila, the day was more than just a scary incident. It was a turning point, a moment that taught her about courage, hope, and the power of community. Before closing the stand for the day, Lila took a deep breath and looked around. The street was quiet again, but it felt different now. The same corner where fear had once loomed now felt like a place of possibility. She smiled, realizing that even ordinary days could hold extraordinary lessons. Courage didn't always roar. Sometimes it quietly built within you, growing stronger with each choice to stay calm, to keep going, and to believe that good people exist in the world. When she finally packed up her lemonade stand and carried the pitchers inside, Lila felt proud. She had survived a frightening morning, learned the value of courage and kindness, and even found a story that people would remember. The memory of the Rock and John Cena standing by her side would stay with her forever. A reminder that even when the world seems scary, there are heroes who appear, and that bravery and hope can live inside everyone, no matter how small they might feel. That evening, as the sun set and the street returned to its usual quiet, Lila sat with her family on the porch, sipping a fresh cup of lemonade she had poured herself. She reflected on the day's events and realized something important. Courage isn't just in heroic actions or dramatic rescues. It's in standing tall, asking for help when you need it, and learning to believe in yourself even when others try to intimidate you. And sometimes it's in small moments, like cleaning up spilled lemonade, smiling at neighbors, and realizing that the world is filled with people willing to step in and protect you when you need it most. The next morning, Lila woke up with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She thought about what had happened the day before, the bikers, the spilled lemonade, and the sudden arrival of the Rock and John Cena. She couldn't believe how quickly the day had changed. One moment she had been terrified, unsure what to do, and the next, she had found herself surrounded by support and courage. Even though the memory of fear lingered, she felt stronger, braver, and ready to face whatever came next. Lila carefully set up her lemonade stand again, this time with extra caution. She arranged the pitchers neatly, made sure all the cups were clean, and double-checked her little sign that read "Fresh Lemonade Made with Love." It was a small touch, but it made her feel proud. She wanted this day to be different, not just for herself, but for the people who might stop by. Her hands shook slightly as she poured the first pitcher into a cup, but she reminded herself that she could handle this. She had faced fear before and survived, and today she could handle anything that came her way. The street seemed peaceful at first. Children played nearby, and neighbors waved as they walked past. Lila greeted them with her usual bright smile, offering a cup of lemonade. Most people stopped for a moment, chatting with her and praising her courage from the day before. "You were so brave yesterday, Lila," one neighbor said. "I'm proud of you for not letting them scare you." Lila felt her chest swell with pride. It was strange to think that selling lemonade could bring out so many lessons about courage, resilience, and community support. But just as she was starting to relax, she heard the familiar roar of motorcycles approaching from down the street. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be them again? Lila's hands trembled slightly as she turned to look. Sure enough, a group of bikers appeared, riding in formation, their engines growling like a pack of wolves. Lila's stomach twisted with fear. She hadn't expected them to return, and she wasn't sure what to do this time. Her first instinct was to run, but she remembered the advice from the Rock and John Cena. Courage isn't about running, it's about standing your ground, being calm, and asking for help when you need it. The bikers slowed as they approached the lemonade stand. The tallest one, the same man who had knocked over her table the day before, jumped off his motorcycle and walked toward her with a smirk. Lila's mind raced. She could feel the fear rising again, but this time, she also felt something new. A quiet determination. She straightened her back, held the pitcher firmly, and met his gaze. "Please don't touch my stand," she said, her voice stronger than she expected. "I'm just selling lemonade." The biker laughed, a harsh, mocking sound that echoed down the street. "What's this? You again? Think you're brave enough to face us?" he sneered. His friends laughed behind him, revving their motorcycles in a show of intimidation. Lila's heart pounded, but she remembered the look on the Rock and John Cena's faces the day before. They had shown her that fear could be met with calm confidence. She took a deep breath and tried to steady herself, refusing to let the bikers see how scared she felt inside. Just as the tension reached its peak, the sound of footsteps echoed from down the street. Lila's eyes widened in disbelief. It was the Rock and John Cena again. Somehow they had been nearby and they had noticed the bikers returning. Their arrival felt like a shield of protection, an invisible force that made Lila feel safe despite the fear still buzzing in her chest. The bikers noticed them too, and for the first time their confident smirks faltered. They weren't sure how to react to the presence of two powerful, well-known figures standing calmly at the edge of the street. The Rock stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Leave her alone, now." There was no hesitation in his tone, no anger, just authority. John Cena stood beside him, crossing his arms, his posture strong and steady. The bikers exchanged nervous glances, realizing that this confrontation wasn't going to be as easy as they had hoped. The presence of the two men changed the entire dynamic. The bikers' laughter faded, replaced by uncertainty. Lila felt a wave of relief wash over her. She wasn't alone anymore. One of the bikers tried to act tough, stepping forward slightly. "You think you can tell us what to do?" he said, but his voice lacked the confidence it had carried the day before. The Rock didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His calm stance, his steady gaze, and the quiet authority in his tone spoke louder than any words could. John Cena's presence beside him added to the feeling that the bikers were outmatched, even though they were bigger and had motorcycles. Courage and authority sometimes came in unexpected forms, and the bikers were learning that lesson fast. Slowly, the bikers began to back away. Their smirks turned into uneasy frowns as they realized that intimidation alone would not work this time. The tallest biker muttered something under his breath, then turned to his friends. Engines roared as they mounted their motorcycles and started to ride away, leaving the street quiet once again. Lila watched them go, her hands still trembling slightly, but her heart felt lighter. She had faced fear again, and this time with help. She had seen it disappear. The Rock and John Cena walked over to her, kneeling to be at eye level. "Are you okay?" The Rock asked gently. Lila nodded, trying to smile despite the lingering fear. I'm fine," she stammered. John Cena added, "You were very brave. Not many people would stand there and face them, especially after what happened yesterday. But you did. That's something to be proud of." Lila felt warmth spread through her chest. She realized that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about continuing even when fear was present. Neighbors slowly came out of their houses again, offering assistance and reassurance. Some helped clean up a few cups that had tipped over, while others brought new pitchers of lemonade and paper towels. Children peeked from behind fences, curious about the return of the bikers and the presence of the Rock and John Cena. Lila smiled at them, feeling a sense of community that was stronger than any fear. The kindness and support of others made her realize that courage wasn't just an individual act, it was often shared. As the morning moved on, Lila found herself serving more customers than ever. Word of the bikers' return and their sudden departure with the Rock and John Cena spread quickly. People came from nearby streets, curious to see the brave girl who had faced danger with such poise. Lila poured lemonade, chatted with customers, and even laughed when a little boy accidentally spilled some on his shoes. Each cup she served felt like a small victory, a reminder that the fear of yesterday had not defeated her. The Rock and John Cena stayed nearby for a while, keeping an eye on the street and offering words of encouragement. "You've got real courage," The Rock said, smiling. "And remember, courage isn't always about fighting. It's about standing your ground and asking for help when you need it." John Cena added, "And sometimes help comes in ways you don't expect. People care more than you realize, and you've seen that firsthand." Lila listened carefully, absorbing every word. Their calm presence and wisdom gave her confidence that would stay with her for years. By afternoon, the street had returned to its usual rhythm. Children played nearby, neighbors chatted and smiled, and Lila's lemonade stand felt like a safe, happy place once again. She realized that even though fear had visited her twice in as many days, it had also taught her lessons she could never forget. Fear was powerful, but courage, kindness, and support were stronger, and sometimes bravery meant letting others stand with you, accepting help, and continuing to do what you loved despite the challenges. As the sun began to warm the street with its late afternoon glow, Lila reflected on the events of the morning. The bikers' attempt to intimidate her had failed not just because of The Rock and John Cena, but because she had faced them with calm and courage. She had learned that bravery wasn't about being fearless. It was about believing in yourself, trusting others, and standing firm even when the situation seemed impossible. When the day finally began to wind down, Lila packed up her lemonade stand with a sense of accomplishment. She had faced fear twice in 2 days, learned the value of support, and experienced kindness in a way she would never forget. The memory of The Rock and John Cena standing by her side, protecting her without raising a hand in anger, would stay with her forever. It was proof that courage and kindness could overcome fear, and that heroes sometimes appear in the most unexpected moments. That evening, as the street quieted and the sky turned pink and gold, Lila sat on the porch with her parents. They sipped lemonade together, and she recounted the events of the day. Her parents listened with awe, hugging her tightly and praising her bravery. "You handled this better than anyone could have expected," her father said. "And you've learned something very important. Courage isn't just about fighting. It's about facing your fears and accepting help when you need it." Lila nodded, feeling the truth of those words settle deep in her heart. The memory of the bikers and the support she received would remain with her forever. She had discovered strength she didn't know she had, seen the kindness of neighbors and strangers, and learned lessons about courage, hope, and community. Even a simple lemonade stand had turned into a place of life-changing lessons. And though the fear she felt would always be a part of her story, it had been transformed into something powerful, a story of resilience, bravery, and the incredible impact of people who step in when others are in need. After the events of the past 2 days, the neighborhood felt different. The memory of fear that had once lingered on the quiet streets had been replaced with a sense of courage, hope, and community. Lila's lemonade stand had become more than just a small table with pitchers and cups. It had turned into a symbol of resilience. Every time she poured lemonade for a neighbor, she felt a little more confident, a little more certain that she could face the world, no matter how intimidating it sometimes seemed. The morning started quietly, with the sun casting a warm glow over the street. Lila carefully set up her stand again, arranging cups, pitchers, and her small hand-painted sign. She remembered the advice The Rock and John Cena had given her, about courage, standing your ground, and asking for help when needed. She took a deep breath, steadying herself as she looked down the street, half expecting the bikers to return. But instead of fear, she felt determination. She had survived once, survived twice, and now she felt ready to continue. Neighbors began to trickle out of their homes, some stopping to check on her, others just smiling and waving. Children who had been scared the day before returned to play nearby, their laughter bringing life back to the corner where fear had once lingered. Lila greeted each person with her usual bright smile, offering cups of lemonade and thanking them for stopping by. Each smile she received in return made her feel stronger, as though the small acts of kindness and courage from the past days were starting to ripple through the neighborhood. Word had spread about the bikers and the unexpected heroes who had intervened. Some of the neighbors had spoken to reporters, sharing the story of the young girl who had faced fear and the 2 men who had stepped in to protect her. Lila had never thought of herself as famous, but now her lemonade stand felt like a place where people came not just for refreshment, but to see courage in action. People from nearby streets walked over, curious to meet the girl who had refused to be intimidated. Each new visitor made her heart race, but in a good way. She felt proud of what she had done, and she wanted to share that pride with others. The Rock and John Cena returned to the neighborhood that morning, visiting Lila's stand again during a break from their charity event. Their arrival brought a quiet excitement to the street. Lila's eyes widened as she saw them walking toward her. She felt a mix of awe and gratitude, remembering how they had stood by her during the bikers' intimidation. They knelt down beside her, speaking kindly and giving her advice about courage, kindness, and believing in herself. "You've shown real strength, Lila," the Rock said gently. "And remember, strength isn't always about fighting. It's about staying calm, doing what's right, and accepting help when you need it." John Cena added, "Courage comes in many forms. Sometimes it's in standing up to bullies. Sometimes it's in continuing to do what you love even when things get hard. You've done both, and that's something very special." Lila felt warmth in her chest. Their words weren't just comforting, they were inspiring. She realized that what had happened wasn't just a story about fear. It was a story about bravery, hope, and the power of support. The neighbors gathered around as The Rock and John Cena spoke, sharing lessons about courage and kindness. Children listened closely, wide-eyed and amazed at the presence of such well-known figures in their own street. Adults nodded thoughtfully, realizing that even small actions like standing up for oneself or helping someone in need could make a huge difference. Lila felt a deep sense of pride and belonging. Her small act of selling lemonade had become a beacon, showing everyone around her that courage, kindness, and community mattered more than fear and intimidation. Throughout the morning, Lila continued serving lemonade, chatting with neighbors, and even laughing when a child accidentally spilled some on the pavement. Each moment reinforced her sense of strength and resilience. She realized that fear, while powerful, could be transformed into courage with the right mindset and support. The bikers had come, trying to scare her, but their efforts had failed. The presence of The Rock and John Cena, combined with her own determination, had changed the entire situation. She had learned firsthand that bravery wasn't about size or strength. It was about heart, persistence, and the willingness to stand firm. By midday, the street was filled with people stopping to buy lemonade and share stories. Lila noticed how the neighborhood had come together in a way it hadn't before. People who had once kept to themselves were now chatting, helping one another, and celebrating the courage of a young girl who had faced danger without backing down. The sense of community was palpable, a quiet but powerful reminder that kindness and support could transform ordinary places into spaces of hope and strength. During a quiet moment, Lila reflected on the lessons she had learned. She thought about fear, about how it had made her feel small and powerless, and about how courage and support had turned that fear into something manageable. She realized that courage didn't mean never being afraid. It meant facing fear, standing tall, and believing that help could appear when needed. She also understood the importance of community. The neighbors, The Rock and John Cena, had all played a part in showing her that she wasn't alone, and that together, people could create a safer, kinder world. As the afternoon sun warmed the street, The Rock and John Cena prepared to leave, but not before giving Lila a few parting words of encouragement. "Remember this moment," The Rock said. "You've learned something very important. Fear can visit, but courage and kindness can stay." John Cena smiled, adding, "And never forget, you have the power to inspire others. Your actions, your bravery, and your heart can make a difference far beyond this street." Lila nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She knew she would never forget their words or the way they had stood by her side. After they left, Lila continued to serve lemonade, her hands steady and her smile bright. She noticed how the children who had been scared before were now playing freely nearby, their laughter filling the street. The neighbors worked together to help her clean up, bringing extra paper towels and pitchers. Lila felt a deep sense of connection and warmth. She realized that courage and kindness were contagious. Once someone acted bravely or helped another, it inspired others to do the same. By evening, Lila's lemonade stand had become more than a small business. It had become a place of inspiration. People who stopped by didn't just want lemonade. They wanted to meet the girl who had faced fear, who had stood her ground, and who had learned that courage, support, and kindness could overcome even the most intimidating challenges. Lila smiled, pouring the last few cups and thanking everyone for coming. She felt proud not just of her lemonade, but of the lessons she had learned and the impact she had made on her neighborhood. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the street, Lila packed up her stand with a sense of fulfillment. She had faced fear twice, learned the power of courage and community, and experienced kindness in ways she would never forget. The memory of the Rock and John Cena standing by her side, offering calm support and wisdom, would stay with her forever. She knew that this experience had changed her, teaching her lessons about bravery, hope, and the importance of helping and supporting others. That night, Lila sat with her parents on the porch, sipping a cup of lemonade she had poured herself. She thought about the past few days and the incredible journey she had been through, from the fear of the bikers to the unexpected arrival of heroes. To the support of neighbors and friends, she realized that life could be unpredictable, scary and challenging, but also full of hope, kindness and courage. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and strength, knowing that no matter what challenges came her way in the future, she had learned how to face them with bravery and heart. Lila's lemonade stand had started as a simple way to earn a little money, but it had become so much more. It had become a place of resilience, a symbol of courage, and a reminder that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they act with heart and kindness. The events of the past days had shown her that fear could be faced, that support could come from unexpected places, and that one person's bravery could inspire an entire community. As she finally closed her eyes that night, Lila knew she would carry these lessons with her forever. She had learned that courage wasn't about being fearless, but about standing firm in the face of fear. She had seen firsthand the power of community and support, and she had experienced the kindness of strangers who stepped in when needed, reminding her that even in the darkest moments, hope and bravery could shine through. The days after the bikers incident passed slowly but surely, and Lila began to notice a change in herself. Each morning when she set up her lemonade stand, she felt a quiet confidence she had never known before. Selling lemonade had once been a simple activity, a way to make a little money, but now it felt much more significant. It was a space where courage had been tested, where kindness had shown its power, and where she had learned lessons that went far beyond cups and pitchers. Even when she thought back to the moments of fear, she no longer felt completely overwhelmed. She remembered the bikers' loud engines, their mocking voices, and the way her heart had raced, but instead of panic, she now felt pride. She had faced that fear and she had survived. More than that, she had learned how to stand her ground, ask for help when needed, and trust that people could come together to protect and support one another. These lessons, she realized, were more important than any amount of money she could make from selling lemonade. Lila's neighborhood had changed as well. People who had once simply passed by without a word now stopped to say hello, share a smile, or buy a cup of lemonade. Children who had been timid or shy began playing more freely nearby, inspired by her courage. Neighbors began chatting with one another, forming stronger connections than before. It was as if the events of the past days had awakened a sense of community, reminding everyone that helping and caring for one another could make even a small neighborhood feel safer and warmer. The Rock and John Cena had promised to visit again, and true to their word, they returned during a charity event a few days later.